You ever watch a group of strangers stroll onto your property like they just bought the whole county at a yard sale? That's how it started for me. The HOA stormed in like they owned Mallister Lake. Truth is, they didn't even own a paddle. But I didn't know that, not yet. That morning when they came marching for my dock, I figured, here we go again. Another HOA hissy fit. Except this time, the moment that crisp violation notice smacked into my hand, something inside me shifted. I could almost feel the lake itself, old patient, waiting for me to do something more than just stand there. I'm Evan. And what kicked off as a petty fight over a few weathered planks turned into a full-blown war over who really held the keys to these waters. If you're into stories about justice, about land, about not rolling over when the suits come knocking, stick around. This one's got more twists than a mountain back road. Let me tell you about that Montana morning. The light came in soft, the kind that makes you want to tip your hat and say thank you. Fog stretched across Mallister Lake, thin as lace, sliding over the water like it had nowhere else to be. My bare feet pressed into the cedar boards, my boards each one cut and sanded by hand, sealed with linseed oil, smelling faintly of sawdust in summer. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that makes you forget there's a world beyond your own shoreline. Even my coffee cooling on the edge sounded loud in the hush. Then just as I started thinking maybe the world would stay quiet a while longer, a sharp click, click, click of high heels snapped the spell. It was a sound you just don't hear out here. I looked up and sure enough, here comes Denise Harland, HOA. President, pink blazer, lipstick sharp as her voice. She didn't say good morning, didn't even pause to take in the view. She just slapped a violation notice against my chest hard enough to slosh my coffee and stain my shirt. Structure unauthorized. 48 hours or the HOA will seize your property. That's what she said. Not hello, not let's talk, just threats, like she was starring in her own courtroom drama. I blinked, still halfway between a good dream and the nightmare she just brought. Ma'am, what? I barely got the words out before she cut me off. Don't play coy, Mr. Mallister. Your dock's out of compliance. Tear it down. I stood there reading the big red letters meant to scare me, feeling the cold set in. Not outside, inside my gut. I built this dock. Every permit filed, every inspection passed, I said. She just shook her head. Irrelevant. The HOA makes the rules. This is our view, our shoreline. She didn't even look at the lake as she said it, just turned and walked away, her heels snapping down the boards like she was nailing the coffin shut. For a while I just stared at the water. That dock wasn't just wood. It was my peace, my anchor, and a promise I made to my father when he died. Keep the lake in the family, keep it honest. But now some committee wanted to wipe all that away as if the lake belonged on a spreadsheet. The day didn't get better. By mid-morning, I heard the slow roll of an HOA-branded SUV crunching down my drive. Denise was back, clipboard out, sunglasses like armor. She brought Miles Reich with her, a guy who thinks he's handy just because he owns a tool belt and a loud voice. We're here for a compliance inspection, she said. Miles started banging around, poking boards, measuring gaps, mumbling things about load-bearing ratios and tolerance standards. I asked if any of those were real terms. He ignored me. Then Denise said my dock was officially non-compliant. County approved this, I said, holding my ground. County permits don't matter, she shot back. You're in Lakeshore Estates now. Our rules. She pointed at a row of floating plastic eyesores, Miles's standard builds. Consistency protects property values, she said, as if that made her queen of the lake. I looked past her at the water. Docks are supposed to be wood, I said. HOA prefers composite. Miles grinned. Uniform color, less maintenance. And I thought more profit for him. Denise declared my dock a visual hazard, then warned me about fines and enforcement. The wind picked up. The lake, old as anything, seemed to whisper, dig deeper. That night I barely slept. The next morning frost coated the planks. On my porch, a stack of HOA flyers screamed about unsafe dock endangers our community. There was a blurry photo of my dock doctored to look like it was about to collapse. My neighbor Grant saw the flyers. Denise and her crew put 'em out at dawn, he said. Your dock's sturdier than anything out here. He asked if I knew about the old water rights. My dad used to mention them. I shrugged. Bits and pieces. My phone buzzed an HOA email about reckless construction activity. They were cranking up the pressure. I went to the dock, running my hand along the railing, and noticed something off. A joint near the ladder was splintered fresh. Someone had tried to sabotage it. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about safety. It was about power, about showing me who was boss. I installed cameras that afternoon. The rumor mill was spinning hard, neighbors walking by whispering side eyes everywhere. A fresh letter arrived. Further modifications are considered defiance of HOA directives. They wanted to break me down before I had a chance to push back. But the lake was on my side, and so was history. I pulled out my dad's old property folder maps, yellowed deeds, scribbled notes. The next day, I drove to the county seat, looking for proof of what my dad had hinted at. Dolores the clerk founded a 1924 water management agreement signed by my grandfather granting perpetual rights over the lake's dam shoreline water system, not to the county, not to the public, to my family. Dolores showed me the clause. Any future association or development must secure written authorization from the water rights holder. I swallowed hard. The HOA never got that authorization. Legally, they didn't have an ounce of control over the lake. Not one drop. I made certified copies, tucked them in a waterproof envelope, and drove home. By then, the sky was gray storm rolling in. The HOA must have felt it too. More flyers, more meetings, more threats. The showdown was set for that night. I spent the day preparing, lining up every document, every permit, every scrap of evidence. Called Clara Bishop, a lawyer and old friend. She looked over the papers and just nodded. You've got jurisdiction, Evan. Let them talk. Document everything. At 7, the hall filled up. Denise tried to put on a show, edited photos, scare tactics for the good of the community. But when my turn came, I stood up and laid the history out. The 1924 agreement, the county transfer in 1999. Clara and Sheriff Wes Calhoun stood with me. An HOA can't override county-recognized water rights, Wes said loud enough for the whole room. You could feel the power shift just like that. Denise sputtered, but the law was clear. Miles bluffed, but nobody was buying anymore. Neighbors started questioning. The board began to crack. The meeting dissolved into whispers and side glances. The storm outside matched the one in the hall. When it cleared, the truth stood steady as the dock. The next morning, snow dusted the pines. Grant stopped by. Folks remember your granddad, he said. Sheriff West delivered more good news. The county launched a fraud investigation. The HOA's water fees compliance threats all void. Miles lost his contractor license. Denise faced legal trouble. The old order crumbled. Justice, real and slow, settled in. After that, things changed. Neighbors brought cookies. Some offered to help rebuild the dock. Some just nodded and said thanks. Even teenagers rode by calling out, "You're the guy who stopped the HOA fees, right?" I laughed. That's me. I rebuilt the dock, stronger, sanding each plank, feeling the grain tell its story. Clara handed me a stewardship plan for the lake, a charter for the future. I screwed a small brass plate onto the new bench. For those who respect the water, for those who remember the past, for those who choose stewardship over control. And as the first snowflakes settled on the boards, I realized something simple. Nobody owns a lake. You're just its caretaker for the time you're lucky enough to be here. Power isn't control. It's knowing when to stand up, when to dig deeper, when to let the truth speak for itself. So if you've ever stared down a bully, HOA or otherwise, if you've ever stood your ground for what's right, drop a simple justice in the comments. Share your own story, your win, your lesson. And if you want more tales of standing firm, of honoring what matters, you know where to find me. I'll be here, on the dock, where the water remembers everything.